Let me tell you something that'll stick with you 1 minute. You're prepping to receive the Medal of Honor, about to stand before the world as a hero, and the next you're in shackles, frog marched up the courthouse steps while the crowd outside howls your name. Some shout for your release, others scream for your head, and every camera in the city is pointed right at you. That was me, Lieutenant Commander Nia Briggs, first black female Navy SEAL sniper, suddenly painted as a traitor in the country I'd bled to protect. You know what I mean? One of those days where every line you've ever drawn between right and wrong blurs to nothing. Inside that courthouse, the air was so thick with judgment you could taste it. I could feel every eye burning holes into my back as the Judge Thompson, sharp as a tack, with eyes that cut through pretense, read out the charges: breach of national security, unauthorized disclosure, possible treason. My wrists and ankles clinked with every step, the orange jumpsuit a far cry from my dress blues. But I held my chin up, because if there's one thing the Navy taught me, it's that you don't give the enemy the satisfaction of seeing you flinch. The government star prosecutor strutted up like he'd already won, painting me as a reckless operative who leaked secrets for kicks. Judge Thompson asked for my plea, but I stayed silent. Sniper discipline, you know? The world may have been falling apart around me, but I was hanging on to the one thing they couldn't take, the truth I carried. And then, as if the whole thing wasn't surreal enough, Admiral Vaughn walked in, ribbons gleaming, commanding the room with that silent authority only a lifetime of making life-or-death calls gives you. He called a recess, threw the whole place into a tailspin, and in that moment, I felt something shift, a glimmer that maybe, just maybe, the truth was about to claw its way out. You want to know how I ended up there? Let me back up a sec, because none of this started in that marble courtroom. 2 years earlier, I was crawling through the mountains of Afghanistan, eyes glued to my scope as I watched a compound that was supposed to be a terrorist outpost. But we weren't hunting terrorists, we were tracking an American unit, codenamed Ember, gone dark and off the books. My spotter, Dalton, whispered that something was off. Too many heat signatures, all packed together and not moving like fighters. I shifted for a better view and saw the truth. Civilians, men, women, even kids locked up and terrified. And in that moment, everything changed. Orders were to observe and report, but what I saw: experimentation, abuse, bodies hauled out under sheets. I couldn't just walk away. I radioed Admiral Vaughn, begged for permission to intervene. He told me to stand down, said we needed more intel, couldn't risk an incident. But those people needed help now, not later. So I made the call. I broke orders. I sent my team in to rescue as many as we could. But what I didn't know, what none of us knew, was that Dalton had already betrayed us, tipped off a private military contractor named Black River, selling out his own country for money and threats to his family. When a shooting started, when missiles began to rain down, I realized we weren't just fighting to get those civilians out, we were fighting to survive a cover-up. I carried a little girl out through fire and smoke, felt the blast here in my body, but held her tight anyway. 37 lives saved, but at a price. Dalton confronted me, gun drawn, talking about survival, about how the system didn't care about any of us. We fought, brutal and desperate, and when it was over, I left him behind, knowing I'd never really escape what that night had cost us all. Back in court, the government showed Dr. Fudajim breaking protocol, supposedly attacking my own teammate, making it look like I'd lost my mind. But Admiral Vaughn, for all his faults, stood up. He presented real evidence, files that exposed not just Project Echo, the bioweapons testing on innocents, but also who'd authorized it. Senator Williams, Black River's CEO, powerful men who believed they were untouchable. And just when they thought they'd buried the story, witnesses came forward. Me team, the translator who'd helped the rescued, even Dalton, finally owning up to what he'd done. The walls started crumbling, the cover-up unraveling in public for the first time. But you know how these things Goth system doesn't just roll over and admit defeat. No sooner had the judge announced my charges would be dismissed than federal agents stormed in, dragging me away to a black site. No trial, no press, just a cold cell and promises that this time, nobody would see or hear from me again. What they didn't count on was Camille Harris, a DOJ agent who'd risked her career to follow the threads nobody else wanted to pull. She tracked me, tracked Vaughn, dug up files that tied the whole rotten mess together. And when the story broke in national TV, in the halls of the United Nations, in every living room that tuned in, the whole world finally saw the truth. It wasn't just me who'd been betrayed. It was every single person who ever believed in justice. We got the survivors to safety. Vaughn and I testified at the UN, risking everything, because sometimes the only way to fix a broken system is to drag it into the light. Senator Williams tried to buy us off, offer hush money and medals. I told him to shove it. Justice isn't politics, I said. You don't get to sweep torture under the rug just because the victims can't fight back. You want to know what happened to the bad guys? Kessler got arrested running for the border. Williams resigned in disgrace. Black River's assets got frozen, and the people who'd suffered under Project Echo, well, they got a chance to tell their stories, to heal. I got offers, book deals, political appointments, even a new medal, but I turned them down. Instead, I went back to what mattered, training the next generation to never let this happen again. Sometimes, when the world is quiet, I pull out a letter from a little girl named Farah. She was one of the children I carried from that compound. Now she's safe in Canada, drawing pictures of heroes and telling her teacher she wants to be brave. That's what matters in the end, you know? Not the medals, not the politics, just knowing that for once I stood on the right side, no matter the cost. So let me ask you, now that you've heard the whole story, when your own government betrays its highest ideals, would you have the courage to stand for the truth, even if it means standing alone? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about right and wrong, about what it really means to serve justice. And if this story got you thinking, hit that subscribe button and come back next week for more. This fight's not over, so don't look away now.